pivotal. But Mid-Ohio's a road course, and Michael's greatest success comes on ovals. Only 3 of his 9 wins have come on road circuits. Michael is on a hot streak. Of the past 3 races, he's finished 3rd once and won 2. But at Mid-Ohio, he's never finished better than 10th. Rick Mears still struggles with road courses after a crash at San Air in 1983. He's currently 2nd in the points and can take the lead today. Twice this year, he's won, both times on ovals. The 3-time IndyCar World Champion is the winningest driver of the 80s. He won every road race in 1981, but he's not won on a road course since 1982. The leader of the pack is Emerson Fittipaldi. Twice he's been Formula One World Champion. Here at Mid-Ohio, he's the defending champion. The $1 Million Indy champ scored 7 of his 10 IndyCar wins on road tracks. Will he become the 2nd man in history to win the Indianapolis 500, the Formula One World Championship, and become the IndyCar World Champion? The common challenge is the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. 2.4 miles of the toughest road in the country. Here, mistakes can be costly. A moment's hesitation can lose the race. A lapse in concentration can end the day. With the championship on the line, mistakes like this can't happen. 11 races are done. There are 4 to go. The PPG Cup is at the end of the road. ESPN, celebrating its 10th year as the world's leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. The Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, located in central Ohio, about halfway between Columbus and Cleveland. It's one of the prettiest venues for auto racing in the entire United States. And today, it's the IndyCars of CART as they continue their season-long fight for the IndyCar World Championship. Hello, I'm Paul Page, and at the top of that fight for the World Championship in the IndyCars is Emerson Fittipaldi. But in the past few races, he's stuttered just a bit. In fact, in the last 3, he's only scored 3 points, so he certainly has his work cut out for him. 2nd in the points right now is Rick Mears. He could, in fact, overtake and pass Fittipaldi in this race today. 3rd in the points is Michael Andretti. He's a bit further back. He can't assume the lead today, but he certainly, with a good result here, could stay in the fight. And then there's Teo Fabi, the pole sitter here today, who still has a very real possibility of closing in and perhaps even coming away with the IndyCar World Championship before this season is done. Now, Johnny Rutherford, if you were one of those 3 drivers, how would you approach the day?
Well, of course, Emerson Fittipaldi has to finish the race in a points position. He wants to pad that position a little bit more. If he runs like that the rest of the season, he'll have the championship locked up. As far as Rick Mears is concerned, he's going to have to go very hard all day and hope for the victory to be able to close in on Emerson Fittipaldi to narrow that gap in the points. Michael Andretti, he's going to have to go flat chat all day to be able to win this thing to even have a chance to stay in the hunt.
And the challenge is, of course, the circuit here at Mid-Ohio. One very tough track. Let's take a ride around with Johnny Rutherford.
Taking a lap around the Mid-Ohio race course with Al Unser Jr. looking over his shoulder across the start-finish line, heading for turn 1 under the bridge. It's a left-hander, which is very quick from one side of the road out to the other, shifting gears down a short straightaway to the 2nd and 3rd turn, which is a kink to the right and then to the left, and up to the carousel, which is a 180-degree loop. This is a notorious part of the course where a lot of the cars have gotten off in the past. Around this, you have to carry a lot of speed, shifting the gears, getting down the long back straightaway, the fastest portion of the course, at about 180 miles an hour. Going through the gears, you get in top gear, 5th or 6th gear here, depending on how it works. Down, hard braking into turn number 6, which is a right-hander. Onto a short straightaway, heading for the twisty bits on the racetrack, as it were, up over a blind brow. Hard driving here, very slippery, it proves in practice. This is the part where you have to work very hard because you're shifting gears a lot, as you can hear, up over another blind brow, a very fast section of the race course. Short straightaway, another straightaway. You want to carry a lot of speed off of this turn so you can get to the other end as quick as you possibly can. The track probably has about 22 gear shifts around it. You're getting speeds from 50 miles an hour to 180 miles an hour. So you're busy all the way around. Here is the 2nd carousel, a tight right-hander. You have to select the right gear, short straightaway, get in it very hard and back out onto the front straightaway, and there you have 1 lap of the Mid-Ohio race course.
15 turns, 9 to the right, 6 to the left, 2.4 miles around the circuit here at Mid-Ohio. Now let's go to the front row. Here's Jackaroo.
Paul, the pole-winning effort by Teo Fabi and the Porsche team is another milestone in their march towards their first victory ever in IndyCar competition. Now this time, as they won the pole in Portland, but this time they have scored the pole-winning position with some adversity. You see what happened in the practice session and in qualifying is Teo was involved in an altercation with Fabrizio Barbazza. They were forced to go to their backup car here. Very quickly they brought it up to speed and gathered in the pole-winning position today, so he'll start on the inside of the front row. Now many of the drivers say that this car has finally shown its mettle at Pocono International Raceway by being able to last almost the entire 500 miles. They say too that because of the narrowness of this racetrack that this should be the key contender for a trip to victory lane, and a history-making trip it would be, as Porsche has never won in World IndyCar competition before. Another driver that's hot off a terrific victory at Pocono International Raceway and looking to upset some people today is the subject of our interview with Gary Gerould. Gary?
Well, Jack, right next door to Teo Fabi, to his left, Danny Sullivan, the man who hopes to play the spoiler role coming into this event at Mid-Ohio. At Pocono, 2 weeks ago, he won the Pocono 500, a milestone in his comeback. Remember, he broke the right forearm at Indianapolis in the month of May. He has the wrist and the arm now taped. He didn't drive with tape or a brace at Pocono, and he showed us a bit earlier today how it was taped, much like a football player or a boxer. And he also gave us a look at some of the x-rays, the pictures of the screws that were surgically implanted in that arm. Of course, that arm is weaker than it normally would be, and that's very much a concern. At Pocono, it was 500 miles, but only 3 left-hand turns to contend with. Here at Mid-Ohio, 200 miles, but 15 right and left-hand turns on each and every lap. Now, we mentioned the weakened arm. It's a concern for Danny Sullivan. He wants to be competitive. He wants that spoilers role here at Mid-Ohio. Paul?
So there you get an indication of the front row. Teo Fabi on the pole. Danny Sullivan will start alongside. The drivers are now in their cars, and we are ready for that most famous command in racing.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
Up and down the line. Each of the drivers concentrate on their tachometers, their oil pressures, making sure that everything is absolutely perfect in the cockpit, and begin to think about this 200-mile run that lies ahead, one that is so critical to the championship. Bobby Rahal, who, when he was with True Sports, knew this track so very well. This was their own private test facility. The pole sitter, Teo Fabi, as he looks ahead to the PPG pace cars, and we are ready to go racing at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Today, Speed World is brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality, always has, always will. By the Die-Hard battery, now with more power when you need it most. By Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? And by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you.
It is from Kodak. It is for
this field. The cars are started. Let's take a look at the starting grid. The pole sitter is Teo Fabi, who won this event as a rookie in 1983. Danny Sullivan has never finished worse than 5th here. He's also never won. Allenser Jr. is looking for his 10th career win and first road course victory. Emerson Fittipaldi, the points leader, is also the defending champion here. Bobby Rahal won this race in 1985 and 86. Rick Mears finished 3rd here 1 year ago. Scott Pruitt finished 2nd at Detroit, losing the lead with just 5 laps to go. Michael Andretti has won 2 of the last 3 kart events. Derek Daly has his best qualifying effort here. Ari Luyendyk has 7 top 10 finishes this year, including a 3rd at Portland. Mario Andretti won here in 1984. Scott Brayton is making his first start here in 5 years. Didier Taze is in his first drive in the Vince Granatelli car. John Jones, his best career effort was here, a 7th a year ago. Ludwig Heimrath Jr., another Canadian, back full-time after breaking his ribs in June. Roberto Guerrero in the Alfa, the 1987 winner of this race. Pancho Carter drove here in the very first event in 1980. Raul Boisel, a Brazilian, finished 6th here a year ago. Kevin Kogan, his best finish was 4th in 1986. Jeff Wood has 3 top 10 finishes in 9 career road racing starts. Bernard Jourdain, leading candidate for Rookie of the Year honors. Mark Dismore, making his first IndyCar World Series start. Randy Lewis, a 7-year veteran, hoping for a good day. Fabrizio Barbaza finished 8th in his most recent start at Toronto. A.J. Foyt, only 3 of his 67 career victories have been on road courses. Guido Dacco is currently 2nd in the 1989 rookie crop. Steve Saleen, making his 5th IndyCar appearance. And Fulvio Palavio, an Italian, making only his 2nd start in 1989. Magnificent crowd here today. 28 Indy cars ready to go on the pace laps now before the start of this 200.5-mile run. 84 laps around this circuit. Ludwig Heimrath Jr. had a little bit of trouble starting his car, but there he is. In fact, the 71 car was able to get started, now has joined his position on the field right behind Roberto Guerrero in the Alpha-powered machine. On board with Scott Pruitt. This is the Budweiser True Sports entry. As he works his way around, Rick Mears sits up just ahead. Now, for this particular race, because the pit straight is so very short, they start the race over on the long straightaway. They're coming around the final carousel now, and you will see the pits just off to Scott Pruitt's left as they come onto this straightaway. There's the control tower, the final turn. Here then is the pit straight, but they have yet several turns to go before a start. The front row, Teo Fabi and Danny Sullivan. The weather here is absolutely gorgeous. You couldn't ask for it to be more perfect. Clear, some cottony white clouds overhead, and 72 degrees. A perfect day for racing in the central farmlands of Ohio. On the line today, $500,000 to the man. The purse they will distribute among these drivers. And Scott Pruitt now begins to form into his position as they go to the first carousel on this course. The number 8 car is the Quaker State Porsche of Teo Fabi. The Miller High Life Penske is Danny Sullivan. He will move off to the outside of Teo as they come now onto the long stretch. Begin to form in their rows of 2 as they come onto this longest straightaway on the circuit. The rest of the field forms up behind. The start will occur here. The finish will occur over in front of the pit straight. They're nicely aligned now. Teo Fabi with his eye toward that starter. And they say no. They will not start on this time around. And there's the reason. Pancho Carter apparently stalled the car by the edge of the road.
Yes, it's very hard to tell, Paul, at this point exactly what it might be. Electrics would be my guess, but the car has obviously just quit cold on him, and he's coasted to a stop. That's a shame for Pancho Carter.
So Pancho Carter, any of the course marshals here, and you couldn't run a course like this without an awful lot of help by those corner workers. We'll try to get him rolling once again on this 2.4-mile circuit. We're at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Paul Page with Johnny Rutherford, Jack Arute, and Gary Gerald anticipating the start of a 200-miler for the Indy cars here. On board with Scott Pruitt, the front row is Teo Fabi and Danny Sullivan. The cars have been forced around the course for an extra lap because this man, Pancho Carter, stalled on the course on the lap that they would have started the race. So the yellow flags came out. We anticipate a green flag here shortly, and we anticipate that it will come as scheduled on the long straightaway. The white flag with the red cross means that there is an emergency vehicle on the circuit. But Teo Fabi, with his 2nd pole of this season, sits on the pole with Danny Sullivan to the outside, and then Emerson Fittipaldi, the points leader at the moment, and Al Unser Jr. making up the 2nd row. Different philosophies for this race. For 2 of the drivers, Michael Andretti and Rick Mears, it's a do-or-die situation. Go as fast as you can. Fittipaldi can be just a little bit more conservative. The front row begins to form up now. The question is whether or not we will actually get a start. We certainly anticipate a start here in what should be one great day of racing. Now the field begins to wind its way about. Safety vehicles did go out on the course trying to get a rope onto Pancho Carter. As they work through the carousel, the question will be whether or not they do want to get Pancho Carter started and into the field. And the way they're coming onto this straightaway, it doesn't look like they're going to be well aligned this time, John.
No, I think at this point they're going to go probably one more lap just to get Pancho out.
So the field continues to try to form up, but the yellow flags continue to fly, and we will wait for the start of the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course IndyCar race. We're back at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, just outside of Lexington, Ohio. There are 3 laps in the record books, though all of those are under yellow. We have not had a start yet, but now Pancho Carter's car has been brought into the pits. The course is clear. They are replacing the spark box on that machine, and the pole sitter, Teo Fabi, should begin to align the field in just a very few seconds. All of the cars are strung out on this first carousel on the circuit, but they begin already to form up, and it looks like we are set to go racing. The field, Danny Sullivan to the outside, Teo Fabi to the inside, begins to pick up speed. The first 4 rows somewhat separated from the rest of the field as they came off of that carousel. Nick Finoro with the green flag. Teo Fabi moves into the lead, and already we are racing now on lap number 4 for record keeping. This is the 4th lap of the race. Teo Fabi pulls away a bit from Danny Sullivan, but Sullivan in the Miller High Life car is right there running in 2nd place. 3rd place is Al Unser Jr., followed by the points leader Emerson Fittipaldi.
This is a very critical time, Paul, because they've got cold tires. They've had a chance to go around. They've picked up a little bit of debris on the tires, so they're scuffing it off, and it's they're all underway, and it looks good.
The question that we saw in the early practice was the condition of this race course in terms of how slick it might become. There's an awful lot of racing that goes on at Mid-Ohio on a weekend like this. They've also done some patching, as we're on board with Al Unser Jr. on the pit straight, completing lap number 4, and you'll see these blacker sections of the course. That's where they've done some work on it, and those have been very slick through the practice.
Very much so, Paul. In fact, so much so that we've seen reflection of cars as they go across these spots. So it's got to be very slippery, and the drivers I've talked to says, yes, it is, and you have to really watch out.
As the day went on yesterday, it seemed that the circuit got better, and it seems in excellent shape right now. Now they have 1 lap completed at speed, and Teo Fabi, the Quaker State car, is out in front.
They're running with this many cars running like this bunched up. They will. Look, here's Sullivan trying to make a pass.
Sullivan made a move to the inside, I think more to get Teo's attention than anything else. He didn't really seem to be positioned so he could outbrake him.
Right, it was a situation there where he was going to try to outbrake him into that turn, but with this many cars running, the track will scrub off, and it will get quicker and quicker.
So Teo Fabi, number 8 machine. It's Porsche powered, and Eric Walker and their team that have put this machine together and been working with it all year are very, very satisfied with this 2nd pole of the season. But Danny Sullivan, the defending IndyCar World Champion, is sitting right there in 2nd place and challenging Fabi. Al Unser Jr. runs in 3rd place, followed by Emerson Fittipaldi. Rick Mears is in 5th place, then Bobby Rahal, then Michael Andretti, and then Scott Pruitt. Derek Daly now runs in 9th, and Mario Andretti runs in 10th. He started, Mario did, in 11th place. That's his poorest start since the 1983 Michigan 500. So Mario Andretti certainly with a long day ahead. He hopes to work his way up through the field. He's already picked up 1 position.
I think we're going to see a tremendous effort out of the Porsche crew. They are hungry, Paul. They have wanted to win a race. Obviously, they knew coming in that it was going to be a building time, a time to get this Porsche sorted out and everything working. And it's about time. I think they're all eager and hungry, and Teo is ready.
And there is 1 car off. That's Barbaza. Looks like he slid where he got there. The grass is down to the left of the car, and no indication that that engine is running. As back at the front of the field, the fight continues. Sullivan set himself up once again. I wonder if he's not telling Teo, I might try here, and then we'll see a little shift in another lap or 2, and he goes around the other side.
Well, Paul, it's my guess that that is the place where the Chevrolet can do it with its extra bit of power that it has on those long straightaways. The Chevrolets are very good, have long legs on those long straightaways, so he's just sitting there hammering and saying, look, I can try you here, I can try you here. Teo will most certainly be watching his mirrors at the end of that straightaway where Sullivan has the advantage.
Danny Sullivan feeling very good after his victory in the Pocono 500. Chasing Teo Fabi, we see the rest of the field now. There's the 20 car of Emerson Fittipaldi, and Bobby Rahal is now beginning to close down on Rick Mears. Rahal in that Craco machine, that bright blue and yellow machine, now trying to catch up to the Pennzoil car of Rick Mears. That's Rick lying just ahead, who is looking for his first win in 1 very long time on a road course. But Rick really thinks that he is capable of doing it, and I tend to agree. He looked so strong at Portland earlier this year.
Oh, yes. I think Rick's ready.
Well, there you see the difference between the Cosworth Power and the Chevrolet as Rick pulls away. We take a look. This is on the pit straight now, watching for the Barbazza car. He just got into the corner a little hot, and it's tough to judge as you come into that corner because you're going under a bridge and the turn disappears around to your left.
Yes, it is, and there's also some bump strips on your left side as you go in there, and if you catch those just right, it can grab the front end and pull the car right around.
The pit of Teo Fabi. Jack Arute standing there keeping an eye on their telemetry downlink. They can keep track of what's going on in that car through telemetry that the car is transmitting directly to the pits. That is also true for the first time this weekend on the Penske cars. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, that telemetry which you're able to monitor here in the Porsche pit may have enabled the team to make some adjustments that if you didn't have this real-time analysis, you wouldn't have been able to do. Those caution laps, based upon what was read out by the computer, they radioed to Teo to lean the car out, to run a little bit leaner because they were running slower. They felt that could increase their fuel consumption before this first stop. They had originally intended to pit around lap 27. Now they're saying they could go as far as lap 30 or so before they have to come on pit road. So we've seen computerization maybe come into play here.
There's an example certainly of how the computer and the telemetry is working for the Porsche team. The Penske team running exactly this, not exactly, but a similar situation that can even tell them when the fuel light flickers on in the race car as they watch both Danny Sullivan's car and Rick Mears' car. Teo Fabi, the leader of the race in the Quaker State Porsche. The Miller High Life car of Danny Sullivan runs in second.
Of NFL Dream Season, Sunday night at 8 Eastern only on ESPN.
We're back at the Red Roof Inns 200 from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, about halfway between Columbus and Cleveland, Ohio. The leader of the race is Teo Fabi in that Porsche-powered machine, being followed by Danny Sullivan. That's the way they started this event. Teo on the pole, Sullivan to the outside. Al Unser Jr. has moved into the third position, and the leaders now begin to encounter the slower car, Fabrizio Barbazza. He had a spin earlier on, was able to get the car restarted. Now the leaders have the job of winding their way about. The first two cars have separated just a bit from Al Unser Jr. And then is Emerson Fittipaldi, who has had his problems trying to close in. They have remained fairly static for the first laps of this race. 9 laps are complete. 84 laps is the scheduled distance, 200.5 miles.
Danny has tried Teo on 2 or 3 occasions at the end of the long straightaway where I said the Chevrolet has the advantage, a little bit more muscle, as it were. He's not been able to do it, and Teo is running a strong race.
Teo Fabi's been running a fairly strong and consistent season. In the last 8 events, he's finished in the top 4 on 7 different occasions. So he is having a good run, and that kind of consistency is keeping him definitely alive in the points fight. Danny Sullivan, on the other hand, could be a spoiler in the points fight. He really, and we got through it with a quick spin. You saw one of the Andretti cars go past there. He's right on the edge of the course.
Look, he's high-centered, Paul, and he can't get the car going. He just spins the rear wheels, and they're going to have to get out and push him. Here comes some workers now to give him a little aid, trying to get him off of that bump strip system there. They can't quite get it done, and there, I don't blame them. I wouldn't go out there either with the cars running that close that fast. Of course, marshals are all volunteers, and they don't have to run out there when it's dangerous, and when cars are coming by, they hesitate. Nice big course like this, there'll be plenty of opportunity for them to get out and push that car when there aren't other race cars coming past. On the other hand, if you're sitting there and you're Scott Pruitt, you're wanting to get those marshals over there. For sure. Let's go. Let's go.
Teo Fabi continues his lead. He's out in front by just about a full second now over Danny Sullivan as they came across the line on the pit straight just a few moments ago.
But Teo is able to go a little quicker through this twisty part of the racetrack than Danny is, and of course Danny has that arm, and we don't know whether he's favoring it any at all.
Well, Danny was concerned about how 84 laps on this circuit might be on that right arm of his. He's still, of course, feeling some of the break that he suffered at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Let's go back and take a look at the situation with Scott Pruitt when he got it off the course. Remember, he carries one of our onboard cameras.
Here he goes to the road. Look, he just got loose. It just went around with him. That's that slick spot on the racetrack we talked about earlier. The fact that he just looped it right there and slid around.
And a second car off. Looks like it may have caught an edge of the barrier, gotten sideways. And that's a lot of light vapor, which means water from the turbocharger. Guido Dacco climbs out of his car, and it looks like his day is done. Speculation, John.
I would think so. It's, you know, either he had a problem and it spun him into that, or he lost it and spun and got into the barrier. Of course, when you back them up like that, it moves a little oil through the turbo, and that's what we see burning.
Doesn't look like there's any marks on the tires. He may have just sensed that problem coming and driven it off the course. We'll wait for the report from the course marshals. Back at the front of the field once again, Teo Fabi being chased by Danny Sullivan. Most of the drivers playing a very conservative theme here. Fabi is out in front by about a second right now. Danny rides into second place. That's just the way that they started the race here. It's the way they continue to run. Now, there's been a lot of controversy about the rules for next year. Earlier, Gary Gerald filed this report.
The new rules package to be implemented by the CART Board of Directors pertains to driver safety and also an effort to make the series more competitive. It'll be tough to see the changes to the naked eye, but they pertain to basically 3 positions on the race car, first of which here at the rear wing. On the super speedways next year, this is going to be a much smaller wing. It means a reduction in aerodynamic downforce. Also, underneath the race car, very difficult to see, but there's an underwing. It's going to be reduced some 2 inches. That'll take away some more downforce. Crew chiefs believe that on the super speedways, the loss of downforce may be as much as 25%, and on the road circuits, it may be about 10%. This is going to be a much different race car to drive starting next year. Now, the position of the driver will also be changed. Next year, driver's head back 4 inches from where it's located now. Next year, driver's feet, because the nose will be longer, back about 10 inches from where it's positioned in '89. They're going to strengthen the cockpit. If there is frontal contact in a crash and a wheel comes back, they hope to keep it out of the contact away from the driver's head. The basic thing, however, is that aerodynamic change. It's going to put the focus on driver skills, and it's going to make for a very entertaining 1990 IndyCar season.
The question, though, was what to do about cars that were built before 1990. As Al Unser Jr. has managed to work his way past Danny Sullivan and move into second place. The question, what to do about the cars that are running this year. And the CART board has made a decision. They're going to allow the 1989 cars and before to run with the same wing setback that they have been running, but they will have to update to the 1990 aerodynamic package on the underwing of the car. But CART adds to that, if you come to us right now and say, look, you're going to run that older car, they will supply the underwing package to you at no cost. That's the indication right now. And then they're also going to put together a committee that's going to go over and talk to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to try and get some concert with the rules for the 1990 running of the Indianapolis 500. Whatever the case, by 1992, all cars will have to conform to the 1990 rules. So Al Unser Jr. has managed to move into second place, getting around Danny Sullivan, and begins his pursuit now of the Quaker State car of Teo Fabi. Now, look at the back of the line there. There is Guido Dacco, that number 50 car, and the engine just simply lets go, and he's able to recognize it quickly and get it off the course before it put too much oil down.
Well, yes, it was quite obvious there. He's walking back to the pits. That's a long walk when you've been out there racing, Paul, and it's not a lot of fun.
Now Teo Fabi trying to hold off a charging Al Unser Jr. in the Red Roof 200. Little Al set up right behind Fabi, who has led from the green flag. We're back at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course. The battle here is for third place as Danny Sullivan, dropping back into that third position, now has to hold off. A like engine and chassis design being handled by Emerson Fittipaldi. 2 Indianapolis 500 champions now working on one another here. Danny Sullivan using every inch of that circuit, running the wheels off just a little bit. It's not a problem as long as you don't get them too far off, and then the car takes off sailing across the course. I might mention, it was in this part of the course that you saw in the early part of our telecast the Teo Fabi incident from the qualifying sessions where he bounced across and nearly hit Scott Pruitt head on. They, in an overnight construction, decided they were going to try to put some gravel in there to create an area that they would slow. As we take a look at Teo Fabi, or at Emerson Fittipaldi, and he ducks inside of Danny Sullivan, picks up third place.
I wonder if Danny's having a problem with that arm already on this course. This is a very demanding course, and the gear shifting and the working, I would say probably not, but that might be the case.
the other hand, he may be just trying to relax himself as well, decide maybe he can hold off a little bit for the late going. There you get an idea of how slick this circuit can be in some areas. Let's go to the pits. Here's Gary Gerald.
Paul, the man who's calling the shots on the radio, Nigel Bennett for Danny Sullivan. He, of course, the designer of the Penske chassis, and we understand that when Danny lost second position to little Al Unser, he missed a shift. Now he's lost another position to Emerson Fittipaldi. Can't help but wonder now, is it early for a fatigue factor to be sneaking in? Is it the arm? We'll have to wait and see about that. But Danny Sullivan going backwards instead of forward as he had hoped to challenge Teo Fabi. Paul?
Well, if you want to do the comparison with the Pocono 500, where he was the winner, Sullivan there didn't have to reach up and flick the gear lever 22 to 25 times a lap. Here, he's constantly motorboating with that, isn't he?
Well, yes, and another thing I just had a thought about is what if that tape is too tight, cutting off circulation a little bit? Well, you know, that could make your hand go to sleep, and then you would have a real serious problem.
That was one of the precautions. I watched Dr. Terry Tamil tape his arm yesterday before they went out on one of the practices, and Terry said, now, you've got to be very careful not to get this too tight. If you do, it'll clamp down on you, and then you're in real trouble. Well, there is Rick Mears, and he is being chased by Michael Andretti. This is a battle for 6th place as Michael closes in, and it's really beginning to worry Mears.
He closed down, and he ran very deep into that turn. Look at him. He's able to carry it a little bit deeper than Mears is, and that is really something to watch because he is taking the car to the 10/10ths.
The Kmart Haviland car number 6. That is Michael Andretti. And these are two contenders, certainly in the points fight. Back at the front of the field once again. Teo Fabi continues to try to hold off Al Unser Jr. And Johnny, you were talking about how they're able to close in the interval between the Porsche power and the Chevrolet power.
Yes, on the long straightaway, the Chevrolet, I think, has probably a little more muscle, a little more leg to it. So they're able to use that. And you'll see Al Unser move down and run right up behind Teo Fabi and use that power to be able to close the door, to get in closer. But he doesn't have quite enough because Teo can take his car deeper.
The fight continues between Rick Mears and Michael Andretti as Michael sitting right up on the back door of Mears now. They come to that long stretch. Because of this long straightaway, the carousel they just left is the most critical corner of the race course. They have to execute it perfectly so that they can pull to top speed near 180 miles an hour on this section.
Yes, now you can watch now and see Michael close. See how he pulls. He's going to try it. He does it. He gets on the inside and makes a pass.
Boy, he really came down on the inside, jumped all over the brakes. Is the car handling that much better? Is that just a gutsy move?
Evidently. It was a little bit of everything because I would have thought coming down the straightaway with the space between them, there's no way that Michael would try that. But he did and got away with it.
And, of course, that has an impact upon the points fight because both of these drivers are a key factor in the current fight for the IndyCar World Championship. Rick Mears is second. Michael Andretti rise third. Now Teo Fabi begins to encounter some slower traffic as one car gets off and right back on just ahead. The Quaker State crew, there is Derek Walker in the white shirt, keeping track of their driver around the circuit, occasionally with a two-way radio conversation. Now moving on the inside of the Steve Saleen car, Al Unser Jr. He gets past. Teo Fabi is lined up as they come to the fast stretch again.
Yes, and Emerson Fittipaldi has moved into that little threesome, so it's going to be quite a battle here in a little bit, I would think.
On board with Al Unser Jr. And one car comes off of the course, looks to be Heimrath, comes off right at the end of that long straightaway. It is Heimrath.
He's in the sand trap. You know, I think those really serve a purpose because they slow a car down so quickly. It's actually very fine gravel, and the car gets off in there and it slows it down and keeps it from getting into the tire barriers or the walls quite as hard.
On a natural terrain road course like this, the gravel, the sand traps have really helped reduce damage to the car and injuries. Another thing that they use here extensively are tire barriers. They're walls literally built in front of the normal barrier of old tires that they stack up. And when the car slides into those, you can see a couple of them just off to the left as they come onto the pit straight. It cushions the blow into the wall, and they've saved a number of race cars because of it. Well, that's important in a race like the Indy cars, but this circuit is also used by amateur racers, and that's real important when you go sliding off and it's a couple $100 to try and repair the car. Emerson Fittipaldi continues his pursuit now in third place of Al Unser Jr. There's the Heimrath situation once again. Looks like he just overcooked it coming into the corner under braking.
That's exactly what it was. He got in, got a little wide. There are some marbles out there now where the cars have run and thrown some of the debris, little fine chips of rubber, and so he slid it off of the course.
Of course, when you're coming down from 180 miles an hour and coming down to around 70 or 80 miles an hour, scrubbing off 100 miles an hour that quick, it's very easy to lose the car. We'll be back. We're back at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. The Red Roof Inn's 200, Teo Fabi, and the Quaker State Porsche is still the leader. So now he's having to work his way through traffic in front of this magnificent crowd. Just back is Al Unser Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi, as they have encountered some slower traffic as well, but are trying once again to close upon the leader. They should have a clear shot now if they can only catch one car off running just ahead. And that's a problem that you'll see constantly as we take a look backwards right now. This is Al Unser Jr.'s car currently running in second place, and that's Emerson Fittipaldi. Randy Lewis just behind him. Emerson Fittipaldi closing up now in the third position on the Al Unser Jr. car. This gives you a real idea of the terrain changes and the tremendous speed of these Indy cars.
Oh, it really is a magnificent shot to see that. And of course, you were talking about the cars getting off in the dirt. There is, the grass and dirt come right up to the edge of the course, and there's places where it's bald, it's bare, absolutely nothing but powdered dirt, where the cars run the right rear off under the dirt.
Michael Andretti into the pits, lap 21, as he ran a quick pass through in the pits.
You know, could have been that he got off or out of line and slid a little wide in the turn and just came through.
Well, he came right out in the same relative position. He was running a little bit ahead of Rick. Came off of the carousel into the pits. Maybe he did just lose it and decided the pit lane was the safest way to come through.
He might have overcooked that the last turn up there, the carousel before the pits, and the pit entrance is right there, and that was his chance to save it, and he took it.
He was flying as he came down through those pits, and now he comes down inside Rick Mears. It's back the position that he lost as he rolled through the pits at full chest.
The car is really effective there. In fact, that's the best we've seen one all day, is to be able to take it down in there like that and drive that deep, and the brakes must really be working well for him.
Michael Andretti runs in 6th place. Teo Fabi is the leader. 2nd place is Al Unser Jr. In 3rd place is the Marlboro car of Emerson Fittipaldi. Danny Sullivan runs in 4th. Bobby Rahal is in 5th. Michael Andretti, we just mentioned, in 6th. Followed by Rick Mears, then Mario Andretti, up 3 positions from his starting position of 11th. Now running 8th. Derek Daly is 9th, and Arie Luyendyk is 10th.
Michael, he is, I'd really like to know what happened for sure up there, if he did have to just take the escape road and go through the pits, but obviously there's nothing wrong because he is flying.
Well, let's go down to the pits, get this update from Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, here's a first that we haven't heard in a long time. Ed Nathan, the team manager, is in radio communication with Michael Andretti. On the back part of this course, it's very difficult to hear. He was radioing back to Michael to say, if we get a caution, pit as quick as you can. He didn't hear if you get a caution. He heard pit as quick as you can. He ducked on a pit road, saw that there was nobody ready for him, stayed in the throttle and went back out. A costly miscue for Michael Andretti.
Well, perhaps not so costly. He didn't lose a position. He certainly lost some yardage that he had picked up ahead of Rick Mears. But Michael is back at full chat and now waiting for what should be a routine stop. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, the Ludwig Heinrad situation, very simply, his crew says that Jeff Wood hit them in the rear, caused him to get out of control when they got in the sand pit. They got him restarted. He came in. They gave him some new tires. He stalled trying to get out. Proved to be a longer stop than they'd anticipated. Been a frustrating afternoon thus far for Ludwig Heinrad. But he is now back on course, trying to get some of that lost ground back. Paul?
Well, good news for the McKenzie car, and the fact that they are back in competition, he still has tremendous ground to make up to get in contention. He is not running in the top 16 of the order. At the front of it, Teo Fabi, this machine. Reminds you of the Portland race, Johnny Rutherford, where he ran flawlessly for so long, but then very suddenly gave way. On board with Bobby Rahal now. As he works his way around the circuit, Rahal is in 5th place and trying to catch Danny Sullivan. That's the 56 car of Jeff Wood that he moves to the inside of, one of the slower cars on the circuit. And that is Sullivan that lies just ahead. Rahal locked in a battle, and here is the comparison of the power. This is the new Cosworth engine in Bobby Rahal's car. Ahead is the Chevrolet engine, which seems to be the dominant power in the series thus far this season, and certainly for last season as well. Rahal is looking forward to a new team next year, as there is a combination of Gallus and Graco, and then he'll get Chevrolet power. So at the front of the field, it is Teo Fabi with 23 laps. We're back at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, the Red Roof Inn's 200. I'm Paul Page with Johnny Rutherford, and this man, the 8 car, Teo Fabi, has been handling traffic masterfully for the past several laps. getting past car after car and forcing Al Unser Jr. to fight even harder to try to keep with this battle for the lead. Just ahead is the Amway car. That's Scott Brayton. As Teo Fabi comes off the edge of the course trying to get past. And there is Al Unser Jr. He pulls to the inside. Now they have a drag race going. Will this be the first lead change of the race? Teo Fabi nails the throttle and is able to take the lead once again, but they were side by side for a moment.
Boy, that was really exciting. Scott Brayton obviously didn't see Teo and ran him off of the road, and he was able to maintain control, came back on, but Al Unser had the chance to get in the throttle and make the run up beside him. Teo was able to go, so that proves that the Porsche does have some strength. There we saw a little shaking of the fist from Teo Fabi.
Now Al Unser Jr. tries to come inside of Scott Brayton. Same situation as Scotty makes the car a little bit wider. That's Scotty's United car running just ahead of Al Unser Jr. And if you look a bit further, you'll see that Teo is now beginning to get away, and they're on a critical corner. This is the key corner on the course because it is a slow corner leading to the fastest section of the course. Now Al Unser Jr. begins to run the revs up. The tachometer will approach 12,000 RPM as he comes alongside Scott Brayton, threads the needle. Whoa!
That was close.
And Emerson Fittipaldi takes advantage of the situation, closes in, and gets past Brayton as well.
Yes, and Brayton had to move over and let some other cars by. I think Didier Thays got by in the STP car.
So Teo Fabi challenged for a moment for the lead. Now that battle is broken off, but Al Unser Jr. almost had it. We got a display of that new Porsche engine. They've revamped the engine since the Michigan 500, and it's showing some nice power.
Now we'll get a chance to see how strong Al is and whether or not he can close the gap back up without any problem.
For the moment, though, it's clear sailing ahead of Al Unser Jr. He doesn't have Teo Fabi in his sights. Well, right from the green flag, though, we had several laps of full course yellow before we got underway. Teo Fabi has been the leader, and he's averaging 95 miles an hour. The caution period was that when the Hardee's car of Pancho Carter failed on the pace lap, and they decided to go out and get his car off of the course. 18 cars continue on the lead lap here on the 2.4 miles, 15-turn circuit that is the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Now Bobby Rahal has been able to close in right behind Danny Sullivan. Once again, as their fight continues, it is a fight for fourth place. On board with Bobby Rahal.
Here you get a chance to see what it looks like down that fast back straightaway, making a chance of using the car to get down inside, hard braking, get past Didier Thays and make, oh, something's happened.
Something happened to Rahal.
He broke a gearbox or he missed a shift, couldn't get it going again. He's got a problem.
He gets it back rolling, but it's not running right as Bobby Rahal with
really
some problems.
It's either an oil pressure light or a fuel light, looks like, behind the steering wheel as he turned. He's off course. Obviously, there's another car stopped at the top of the hill. He's got a serious problem, or he would not have pulled it over way out of the way like that.
Bobby Rahal, former winner here.
Yeah, he's
two-time IndyCar champion. The crew standing there,
he may be out of fuel. You know, it's getting close to pit stop time, Paul. He may be out of fuel.
Well, how to calculate the fuel stop given those yellow flag laps at the beginning might have been too complex for some of the crews. Those with telemetry may have had an advantage here, knowing exactly how much the car used. But Rahal pulled the car over to the side, threw the steering wheel off over.
That light was obviously a fuel light, I would say, at this point, and it was on solid.
So the leader is Teo Fabi, and Rick Mears comes in for Penske service as Richard Buck and his crew. This is the first pit in this pit that runs up over a little bit of an elevation here. If you're standing down at the far end where Rick is exiting now, you don't see the car down in the first end in 15 seconds. Great service by the Penske team, and the Pennzoil car is back on the course.
Oh, that Penske crew is, they are the masters of the pit stop, it seems. They are able to get the guys in and out very, very quickly.
Now Teo Fabi continuing to encounter other cars on the circuit as he works his way around. That's Ari Luyendyk, the Provimi car just ahead. There is A.J. Foyt, the famous number 14. They called him in for a routine stop, and Foyt rolls back into the action as he heads his way down. And the leader, Teo Fabi, makes for the pits as Foyt heads out. There is the Quaker State crew now going to work. Let's go to Jack.
And Derek Walker is leading the Quaker State crew. They've gone to work changing all 4 tires and taking on a full load of fuel. Second place car is in as well as they drop Fabi. Let's check in with Gary Gerald.
And that's little Al Unser, and both of them are away at the same time. They dodge around the tires. Unser got it sideways on pit road, but he saved it. He almost smacked the right rear against the guardrail. And I'm amazed at the amount of brake dust that's coming out of these rear wheels as they pull them back over the wall, Paul.
So as a result of those stops, Danny Sullivan picks up the lead of the race. For a moment, Emerson Fittipaldi had the lead for about 150 feet in the pits. He on the pit lane actually beat Sullivan to the line. And there is Mario Andretti in the pits making his stop as well.
It was very interesting to see Emerson Fittipaldi fall right in behind that pack of the two cars of Teo Fabi and Al Unser Jr. as they went out. So the three top cars got out together in the same order they were running when they came in.
Generally, the rule that you guys follow is if the leader goes in, you want to try and follow it.
Definitely, unless you're back in the pack where you have to catch the pace car and maintain to be able to not lose a lap, then you do want to. If you're running second or third and you're within sight of the leader and your crew yells, the leader's in, you go in immediately.
Well, you can yell that right now because the leader, Danny Sullivan, is indeed into the pits, and the Penske crew goes to work on this machine. Let's go to Gary.
Danny Sullivan getting the routine service for the first time, had that lead for one lap. It's the usual fresh rubber. It's 40 gallons of fuel and 264 pounds. He lights up the rear end, burns away from the Penske pit. Now it'll be interesting to see where he matches up with the front runners who made their stops on the previous lap.
Well, there is Danny Sullivan, and you see there goes Teo Fabi past Al Unser Jr., so right back to the same order. Teo Fabi picks the lead up again after the first pit stops are complete here at back at the Red Roof Inns 200, the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Teo Fabi was able to pick the lead back up after the first stops. That's carried the Porsche in the lead further than they have ever been before, so they're on uncharted territory now, out in front of this field being chased by Al Unser Jr. and Danny Sullivan.
This could be their day, Paul. You know, he's looked so strong all day. He's warded off any efforts to try to outbrake him into a turn or pass him. Teo Fabi looks extremely strong, but Al Unser Jr. is right there, so he doesn't want to make any mistakes.
And earlier we did see an interesting comparison of the power between the Chevrolet and the Porsche engine. Al Unser Jr. was able to pull up right alongside, though Teo may have had a little more favorable position on the circuit. He was able to jam it down a gear and nail the throttle and get away from Al Unser Jr.
Yeah, that's true, and of course Al Unser has sat there in Teo's mirrors, and that's what you want to do if you're in second place, is be right there. Worry that guy, and he's got to keep looking in the mirrors. Every time he does, there you are.
I'll tell you, here on a natural terrain road circuit like Mid-Ohio is, you can take some more chances than, say, if you're running on a street or a temporary circuit where the barriers are right along the wall. Bobby Rahal, with a smile, walks back. His day is done. Report is that the power plant let go on his car. He's the fourth car then out of the race.
He's received some liquid refreshment, obviously, there from some fans, so he's making the long walk back.
He lives 50 miles south of here. He's got a ton of fans up in these stands. Of course, when he was driving for True Sports here, he brought a lot of notoriety to this town and continues to do so. They're very proud of the relationship between Bobby Rahal, who's been very active in a lot of community affairs. Both you and I were able to roast him earlier this week to benefit the Columbus Zoo and help Jack Hanna out there. But yeah, we got him good.
Good, real good.
Well, Bobby Rahal is out. Pancho Carter was out in the early going. Guido Dacco with a blown power plant. And Bernard Jourdain is also being reported out with power plant problems. Let's go down to Gary Gerald.
Paul, as you well know, on road courses, downforce the name of the game. And the latest wrinkle this season has seen virtually all the top teams come up with a change in the nose wing configuration. Here in little Al Unser's pit, this will give you an idea on a spare nose wing. This is the normal side plate. This is the new addition this year. It started out first with the Craco team, then the Andretti teams jumped in, then Gallus, then it was Penske, now it's Emerson Fittipaldi. 8 of the top 10 qualifiers have this. It comes from Formula One. This is called a splitter. Tries to clean up the air that comes back over the tire, and then the clean air that goes back and under and around the tunnels, giving more efficient downforce. Wind tunnel research data says, yes, this is the more effective way to create the downforce. But Tony Cicale of Teo Fabi's team says, you don't always believe what the wind tunnel tells you. Consequently, Teo Fabi does not have this splitter on his nose wing. He and Arie Luyendyk are the only 2 men of the top 10 qualifiers who don't have it. And right now, you've got a have in Al Unser running second against the man who doesn't have it, who has the lead. Interesting battle.
At the front of the field, Teo Fabi continues to run while A.J. Foyt has climbed out of his car, and he's done. He's only finished 2 of the 10 races that he's been in so far this year. So Foyt, who was hoping for a stronger comeback this season, just hasn't been able to put it together and get it done.
No, he really hasn't, and that's a shame. But you know, that happens. You just, when you're trying to go to all the races, it's there. Looky there.
Daly and Brayton get together. The Amway car, the Rayner car. They don't look like they got together and touched, but they certainly spun together.
Well, it appeared that Brayton ran him off of the road.
It won't bother this battle for the lead. There's some distance from that situation right now, and the yellow flag, of course, on a road course will fly only in the area of the incident. There it is, John.
Yes, he pulled up on the inside. Daly pulls up on the inside, hits the bump strips, knocks his car loose. He goes out and just tags the left rear of Scotty Brayton, and off around he went, and that was the end of that.
So out goes the Horton safety team to try to get those cars cleared off the course. We'll have a standing yellow in that section of the race course only. Everywhere else, the race will continue.
There's a wealth of information that's made available to nearly all the leading IndyCar teams through the use of onboard computers. Team Penske utilizes the Chevrolet instrumentation system, and basically it boils down to this little box that's found in the cockpit of the cars driven by both Rick Mears and Danny Sullivan. This box is positioned right down alongside the driver's right leg. It monitors a variety of functions, and amazingly, it monitors all of these functions as many as 100 times per second all the time the car is on the course, either in practice or in the race. Now, what does it monitor? 24 different engine functions alone. Boost, RPMs, fuel, oil pressures, temperatures, things like that. It also monitors speed at any position on the race course. It measures G-loads when you're cornering, when you're accelerating, when you're braking. There are also special sensors incorporated throughout the car that will monitor things like steering angles, suspension travels, ride heights, you name it. This little black box virtually will do it. Now, when the car comes in from practice, crew member comes in over here, they plug in the computer. In a matter of moments, all of the information stored in the box downloaded into this computer, and then through a variety of charts and printouts, they have a wealth of information that determines race day setup.
A wealth of information now available. Out in front, Teo Fabi. As he tries on the inside, Al Unser Jr. tries a move, but Teo Fabi comes across and slams the door again. But Al has been working his way up, trying to find a position of advantage right behind Fabi. There are only a couple places on this course that you really can successfully get past. You have to be very careful. You're not in one of them right now. As Fabi works to the second longest straightaway on this track, Al Unser Jr. drops right back, continues to watch the positioning of the Porsche car sitting just ahead. We're approaching the halfway point in this race. 38 laps are complete, 84 laps the scheduled distance. Now, if the race ended right at this moment, this is the way the championship would shake out. Teo Fabi, because of his positioning now, would move past Michael Andretti and pick up third position. That's only supposition. The race would end at this moment. We'll continue tracking the championship as well as the race itself.
Looks like Teo just sits there and waits until little Al gets up and makes a move on him. Then he unloads again and lets it go.
Here is the fight now for third place. Danny Sullivan and Emerson Fittipaldi as they continue to follow one another around the circuit. From time to time, Sullivan will pull up at the back of Fittipaldi's car, but for the most part, Fittipaldi has been able to hold off Sullivan as well.
Yes, I think here we're seeing Emerson just having a nice, smooth ride and not really jeopardizing anything, because he knows that if he finishes and makes those precious points running up front, that he will have the championship when it's all over.
Fittipaldi really is in a little more relaxed position than anybody else in the championship fight right now. It's not critical that he win a race or do particularly well, just as long as he's in points.
That's right, and that's just exactly what he's doing right now. We're watching him not really press the car too hard to have it drop out so he doesn't get any points. He's going to get a point position. That's what he's got to have.
On the other hand, doesn't that require tremendous self-discipline to accomplish something like that?
Most definitely, because your body and your competitive nature is crying, go for it. Let's go past that car. Get on by, get the distance, and you really can't do that. You have to think and theorize and make sure that you don't get yourself in problems.
Fittipaldi, two-time World Formula One champion, along with Sullivan. They get past Jeff Wood onto the pit straight once again, but Sullivan, taking advantage of the slower positioning of the car, is able to close on Fittipaldi.
When they came out of the pits, Sullivan upon losing that lap that he did to the field when he made his stop, came back out in front of Emo. So Emerson has caught and passed Sullivan, but Sullivan is doing a job keeping up, keeping the pressure on Emerson.
And Sullivan, still the question is his right arm. Look how nicely that car turns in, though. He really handles his car well, especially in that carousel. He's got that one dialed in pretty well, for a fact. Emerson Fittipaldi rides in third place. The leader is Teo Fabi. Second place is Al Unser Jr. Danny Sullivan is fourth. Michael Andretti is fifth, followed by Rick Mears. Then Mario Andretti, then Derek Daly, and then Ari Luyendyk. A beautiful day. A spectacular crowd here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And an unbelievable run by Teo Fabi in the Quaker State Porsche. He's out in front and continuing his lead. We're back at the Red Roof Inns 200, the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. The Indy cars, Teo Fabi, the Quaker State Porsche, is being chased by Al Unser Jr., but for the moment, he has the Provimi car of Ari Luyendyk, and just ahead of Al Unser Jr., that 21 car, the bright red machine, is the Alfa Romeo of Roberto Guerrero, a car that they are developing this year, and Roberto wisely moves to the outside and lets the second place car, the Valvoline machine of Al Unser Jr., move past and continue his pursuit of Teo Fabi.
This is a situation where guys are starting to get lulled into a little complacency, Paul, so you have to make sure that you let them see you or know you're there in their mirrors before you take a chance of passing them.
We're at the halfway point in this race. 42 laps of the 84-lap scheduled distance are now complete. Al Unser Jr. having to handle up Ari Luyendyk. Luyendyk runs in 9th place. There are only 8 cars now on the lead lap of the 28 that started. And there he comes inside of Ari Luyendyk and gets past. But of course, this is helping Teo Fabi like you can't believe.
Yes.
Every second that he's caught up there, Teo is able to put a few more feet of distance.
Look at the space he's put on Al Unser Jr. there. He's just pulling away. Now Al is back into that second position. There you see him kicking up a little dirt at the edge of the road. It will be interesting now to watch Al Unser Jr. and see if he can reel Teo back in.
Here comes the fight now for third place, though at the moment, not much of a battle. Emerson Fittipaldi, the 20 car, runs alone in third place. Danny Sullivan in an identical PC-18 sits just behind. But this is the car that has been dominant through most of the season, the Penske PC-18. Earlier, Jack took a look at this specific car.
This is the chassis and engine combination that all the competitors have been chasing all year, the PC-18 and Chevrolet power plant. Now, if you notice, the PC design is flatter across the nose than its Lola counterpart. There are a lot of similarities between the Lola and the PC. The reason being, Nigel Bennett came from Lola and now designs the PC entries for Roger Penske. Now, when you take a look at the power plant here, it's a perfect match to the PC. The reason? Well, the car was designed with Chevrolet power in mind. Most obvious difference between this engine and, let's say, its Cosworth counterpart is here in the plenum area and in the injectors. It's more squared, a little bit taller. Now, the basic horsepower for this engine runs about 725 horse, and a lot of the competitors say this combination has a little bit more torque than some of the others.
At the front of the field, though, it's the Porsche March combination of Teo Fabi that is the dominant force here on the 2.4 miles that are the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
It's interesting to watch Teo's head. He is really getting bumped around hard. They have that car obviously very stiff in order to maintain a plane over the racetrack so that the bottom of the car works fairly well, and it's doing just that right now.
Taking a look at the race summary to this point. Teo Fabi certainly been the dominant force and has been picking up the average speed, now running just over 100 miles an hour, though that doesn't approach the race record held by Roberto Guerrero at 107 miles an hour. The caution, full course cautions, came in the early section of the race before the green flag. We've had 3 leaders, 3 different changes, but Teo Fabi has really been the man to watch. Al Unser Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi also being shown on that chart as well. And at the time of the summary, 9 cars sitting on the lead lap with the leader, Teo Fabi. Out of the race thus far, Carter, Jourdain, Guido Dacco, Ludwig Heimrath Jr. Dismore in his first race out early. Bobby Rahal, you saw him pull to the side. Bellavio, Hoyt, now Raul Boisel also being added to the list of cars out of this 200-mile run at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
Fabi is just flawless. He is driving the car away from Al Unser Jr. in that #1 position. The car is working perfectly. You have days.
Teo Fabi, the question now is when to the second, and what should be the final pit stops of this race come. There's been conversation up and down the pit road as they calculate the fuel that they rolled into the cars on the first stop, and best indications are from several of the teams that the next stop will come at about lap 58. That's about 13 laps away from now. But Teo Fabi is certainly having his way with the circuit here at Mid-Ohio. But what is Al Unser Jr.'s game? Is he now content to sit and watch Fabi? Has he decided there is a place that I can catch and pass him, or is he struggling?
No, I don't think he's struggling, Paul. I think he is thinking about his equipment, the distance of the race, the time to the next pit stop to get in and out and maybe get the advantage in the pits. There are a lot of things to think about while you're out there running like this. He knows Fabi's right there. He can see him. He's still working to reel him in.
You can see when he has open contact ahead to Fabi, he is able to pull him in ever so slowly. This gives you a great idea what racing is all about. It's a game that's played at hundreds of miles an hour, but they only pick up a few inches per lap on this course. Teo Fabi is the leader. Back at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, Paul Page with Johnny Rutherford, Gary Gerald, and Jack Arud. We're watching Scott Pruitt and Mario Andretti. Now, it's not a battle for position, but it's a marvelous fight on this circuit as both cars come inside Steve Saleen. They're ahead. That's Mario from the onboard camera on Scott Pruitt's car. Mario is running in 7th. Pruitt is another lap back, running in 12th place. But the two of them have been hooked up, trying to catch one another. Here is Al Unser Jr. as he tries to get inside Teo Fabi and pick up the lead. He has the lead. Al Unser Jr. makes a move on that long straightaway, darts inside Teo Fabi, picks up the lead of the race. So the lead has changed hands now for a 4th time, and now it's Al Unser Jr.
Well, I guess that answers our question. Al Unser Jr. was just waiting back there for his opportunity. Now he's going to make Teo do the same thing he's been doing all day.
That Toshiba car just ahead is Randy Lewis. And Al Unser Jr. gets bottled up behind him. That lets Teo move right in behind as well, not lose any distance. And there is Shelly Unser, and she's going to see her husband come around. There she does. The first time she's seen him as the leader of the race. But boy, the fight at the front of the field does continue. Teo Fabi wasn't happy about that pass. And as they go through the first turn, back in pursuit. Now down through the 2nd and 3rd corner, heading for the carousel.
There's the rearward shot. Boy, fantastic shot of Fabi's car, closing right up behind through the carousel. Now we'll see what the Porsche has down the straightaway. Up, Al got away. That's the muscle off of the turn. Able to get the throttle down, get the power to the ground, and make it happen.
He got a good solid bite a little bit earlier on in the corner. While it looks like a curve there, it is really a straightaway to the race cars. Now they're down on the brakes, slamming down through the gears into the right-hander, then an off-cambered left-hander. Very difficult turn to get around, especially once this track gets slick, but the circuit really seems to be holding up very well.
It really does. It's the turns aren't as shiny, I've noticed, as they were as we watched earlier. So the tires of the cars, these cars, have put their rubber down now, and it's compatible, and they're all working well.
The sky has some scattered clouds now that have moved overhead, blocking the sun from most of the circuit. That should help the tires stick a little bit better.
Well, it cuts down on the heat generated by the sun on the race course itself. Of course, the engines like it a little better.
A comfortable and beautiful day here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Al Unser Jr. is in front of the field right now. Let's go down to the pits and Jack Arut.
Well, Paul, we checked in on the condition of Michael Andretti's car. You know, he had that miscue on pit road. They're reporting that the car is showing a little bit loose, chasing the racetrack much like they did at Pocono. They asked Michael if he wanted to make any sort of changes during the next series of stops. He said, no, I'm going to hope that the track will come to me. He's remembering what happened at Pocono where he managed to hold on to finish 3rd. Points so very important to Michael Andretti.
Michael Andretti has turned into a very smart driver this year. He's been very patient. And that patience has paid off a number of times. In fact, twice in the last 3 races, that patience has brought home a victory. So Al Unser Jr. is out in front. Teo Fabi lies in 2nd place. 49 laps are now complete at Mid-Ohio. We're at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. There is the leader of the race, Al Unser Jr. He just picked up the lead a few laps ago. It is the 4th lead change of the day, but the first time that anyone substantively got past Teo Fabi. This is that action just a few moments ago. It was on the long straightaway leading to the right-hander on the backside of the course. He was able under braking to force his way past the Porsche of Teo Fabi and pick up the lead. Once he did so, he's been able to use the power of that Chevrolet engine to pull away a bit from the Porsche. So the Valvoline car is out in front at Mid-Ohio.
It is. He used Didier Taze, who's driving that bright red car that we saw in the shot of the pass, as a block. Teo was pulling up on him. He hesitated for an instant, and it gave little Al a chance to move right in there and make that pass.
Now that's Steve Saleen sitting just ahead of Al Unser Jr. And of course, because Saleen is there, unless Al can get past on the inside, it would slow the situation down and allow Teo to catch up. So Teo Fabi now has the problem of catching up to the leader, the new leader of the race, and that is Al Unser Jr. So we have a fight for the lead at Mid-Ohio. And that fight continues. Al Unser Jr. holding off Teo Fabi, and one car off the edge of the course. That's Barbaza once again.
Yeah, that's his second excursion off onto the grass.
Well, he was also involved in that situation with Fabi that sent Fabi off of the course in his primary car during the qualifying, and they had to go to the backup car. So what Fabi's actually driving is the backup machine, though for all practical purposes they are identical race cars. As a matter of fact, they'll set the backup car in the pits. They'll make any changes on the backup car that have been made to the primary car so they can quickly exchange them, which is what the Porsche crew did. The Mid-Ohio Sports Car course with Al Unser Jr. now in the position of having to hold off Teo Fabi. That's John Jones, the Labatt's car, that sits just ahead of Al Unser Jr. as they work their way around on the pit straight here. And both cars are able to duck inside of John Jones. He sees the leader coming by, but then drifted out and came out in front of Teo Fabi. That gave some breathing room to Al Unser Jr., who is now once again able to pull away a little bit from Fabi, but almost immediately he encounters Jeff Wood. So they work their way through traffic here on the 2.4-mile 15-turn circuit in Central Ohio.
This is very, very dicey because, like I say, complacency starts to set in. Guys have been sitting out there droning around this race course, and they don't really check their mirrors close enough, especially a new guy. So you want to be very sure that that guy sees you before you make an attempt to pass, or it can be a come together.
Of course, in defense of the other guy, he's got his hand full. He's running down into a corner, trying to find that little mark on the pavement or the edge of the course or whatever that he knows he has to be in a certain gear and on the brakes. And he's not really that interested when he's closing at 180 miles an hour in checking the mirrors at that second. Teo Fabi stays in pursuit of Al Unser Jr., though Little Al stretches out the lead for just a bit. They came past the pits right on top of one another, but now once again Little Al is able to pull away. Remember, he's the son of a 4-time Indy champion. We asked him what would he do differently in his career than his dad did.
Not much. You know, Dad's very successful person in life, and I've always said that if I could just stay, you know, one footstep behind my father, then I would be a very happy man. You know, I'm very proud to be son of 4-time Indy winner Al Unser. I'm not out to make a name for myself, you know, because I'm proud of my father. I don't know. Dad's been very successful in his life, and so I would have no reason to do anything different than what he's done.
Well, if he can match the feats of his father, he'll go down in the books as one of the great champions of the sport. His dad, only one of 2 4-time winners at Indy, and a man who really knows how to handle a race car.
Boy, that's for sure. And of course, in the Unser tradition, Uncle Bobby and Uncle Louie and all of the family that have raced for so many years in the Unser family.
Danny Sullivan rides in 4th place. We're now hearing that Robbie Unser may be coming to the IndyCars very shortly.
Yes, that could be.
Watching around the circuit, Michael Andretti now, who rides back in 5th place. That's Arie Luyendyk just ahead. Not a battle for position, but a good little fight on the circuit, as Michael, playing a very, very careful day, tries to get around Luyendyk.
You mentioned earlier, and we talked about the fact that he has become a very heady driver. He looks like he's using his head more and not forcing the issue. He has an extremely good race car, and that gives him the ability to use that race car to make calculated moves.
And that's become one of the qualities that has become so important in the Indy cars, especially when you consider the wide variety of racetracks that they run on. Everything from a super speedway through the different kinds of road circuits down to the 1-mile oval. you really have to be a bright heads-up driver. You just can't be the fastest guy around. You also have to be a guy who knows how to get that car to the end of the race.
You've got to know how to use it and utilize it to make it all work for you. He's methodically moving along, passing cars as he comes to them, moving in on Sullivan, who's just ahead of him.
The IndyCar's spectacular machines, 1,550 pounds, 161 turbocharged cubic inches, develops over 700 horsepower. We'll be back. Back at the Red Roof Inns 200, the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, about 50 miles north of Columbus in central Ohio. The leader of the race is Al Unser Jr. Teo Fabi continues to pursue little Al. They have battled back and forth right from the green flag. We anticipate stops for most of the leaders. Here is Danny Sullivan, the 5th place car, as he heads into the pits now. Steve Saleen comes in just ahead of the Penske team, as also Roger Penske. You can see him there almost in the center of the shot above Danny Sullivan. Waits for Rick Mears to come in. The equipment laid out for Rick Mears as well. 15.5 seconds. And Danny Sullivan, the defending PPG IndyCar World Series champion, is back into the action. Teo Fabi, the 8 car, continues his pursuit of Al Unser Jr. Both of these cars due for what should be their second and final stop of the race. But the Penske team brought their cars in off of the leader pace. And Al Unser Jr., there is Rick Mears making his stop in the 4 car, that Pennzoil machine as well. And this appears to be going routinely and smooth for the Penske team. This car due to stop, but continues on the pit straight once again. Al Unser Jr. out in front, but the 2nd place car, Teo Fabi, heads down into the pits. So Peter Parrott, that crew is there. Let's go to Gary.
Well, we're in the Al Unser Jr. pit. We're 1 pit away, but it looks routine from our vantage point, Paul. There's fresh rubber for Teo Fabi. We checked with Eric Walker. He said they would not change anything on the setup. They like the setup, and he is away. It's just fresh tires and fuel for Teo Fabi. Now we await Al Unser Jr.
1 car off the edge of the circuit looks to be John Jones, the Labatt's machine. He gets it back on the course. A quick little spin taking him off.
He killed it as he came back on the course, and that is a shame because you feel very, very lucky if you can catch one of these things when you spin it off of the course and save the engine.
Emerson Fittipaldi is in. Let's go to Jackaroo.
And Paul, they're working on Emerson Fittipaldi's pit stop. He thought he had a tire going down, but he elected to stay out an additional 2 laps and take a scheduled stop. Young Michael Andretti also in and out of the pits very quickly for what for both should be their final stops of the day.
So Al Unser Jr., the only car that has not yet made a stop in what should be the final stop of the race, and little Al, of course, is the leader of the race. Will this give an opportunity for Teo Fabi to close in and get past and back into the lead? Now the race will belong to the pit crews.
It could very much here. Seeing Al Unser Jr. come in, it's a slower car in front of him, so he's now pulling in and making his stop. We see from the over-the-shoulder camera there, he's made the stop.
Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, he hit the mark cleanly, and again, Rick Gallus, the man who calls the shots for this team, said they like the setup, obvious when you're running up front, so it's fuel and tires. Jr., the man who won on the streets at Long Beach this year, looking for his 2nd victory. He's away. Fabi coming toward the front straightaway. It may be close when they merge down near the bridge, Paul.
Al Unser Jr. comes out of the pits right behind Jones. Not close at all. Al Unser Jr. keeps the lead. There goes Fabi through the corner. So Fabi now has a job ahead of him if he is going to catch Al Unser Jr. Little Al came out a good 5-6 seconds ahead of Teo Fabi. But now it's a sprint to the finish.
That was a chance that he had to take. Teo wanted to get in and get his pit stop done, so maybe that he could pull this off and stay ahead of Al Unser.
But John Jones just figured into the action as he was able to slow up Al Unser Jr. And now Teo is right at the back door and going to try to get past on the long stretch. Once again, we have a drag race going. And Teo Fabi sweeps across the front of Al Unser Jr. and picks up the lead.
Fantastic move by Teo Fabi. He's obviously working extremely well. His car, they said they didn't change a thing on it, just took on tires and fuel. He is ready to go racing, folks, and this may be Porsche's first victory.
I'll tell you what, you'll ask Teo Fabi, what do you like best in racing? He says, I love to go fast. Well, that's a straightaway, the fastest straightaway here, near 180 miles an hour, where you're looking over the crest of a hill, and all you see is the woods out in front of you. It takes a lot of guts to slam the brakes down and get past somebody there. Let's go to Jackaroo.
Well, Paul, Bobby Rahal has gone from race car driver to father, holding his daughter Michaela in his arms. Bobby, what put you out of the race?
Well, it's something associated with the wastegate. It's almost like it blew a diaphragm because it just overboosts and it blows a valve. And actually, in this case, it stuck the throttle open, too, so I'm not sure 100% what happened, but it's something to do with the wastegate.
Pretty long walk back to pit road, though.
Disappointing. We were running strong. We were staying with the Chevys, and the car was handling good. Just unfortunate.
Michaela, who's your favorite race car driver? I think that says it all, gentlemen.
Yeah, but boy, that was risky, Jack. What if she came up with the wrong answer?
Wouldn't have been my problem. It would have been Bobby's.
At the front of the field, it is now Teo Fabi once again. The fight continues. Al Unser Jr., once Teo got past, dropped back just a bit to reconsider his position. Now let's take a look at the entire field here at 50 laps. Now we're at lap 59 right now, but this was the positioning as they were running at 50 laps. We'll keep you up to date on everybody in this field. Of course, now, though, Teo Fabi is out in front. Kevin Cogan, the machinist car, with a great ride, though the machinists say that they are going to discontinue their racing on the kart circuit at the end of this season. So they say they will probably make an appearance at the Indianapolis 500-mile race. The entire field, 28 starters here. 200 miles, 200.5 miles, 84 laps the distance. And that was the rundown at 50 laps. 60 laps are now complete. And Teo Fabi, by 5 seconds now, is out in front of Al Unser Jr. We'll be back. We're back at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. The Indy cars, Teo Fabi out in front and set up behind Rick Mears now. He gets around Mears, then there will be only 5 cars on the lead lap. Rick Mears is running in 6th place right now. And again, using that long straightaway, Fabi is able to get past and continue his lead. He's now pulled a full 7 seconds away from the 2nd place car of Al Unser Jr. The 3rd place car is Michael Andretti, who has been very careful, very consistent here today. 4th place is Emerson Fittipaldi, who is trying to hold off Danny Sullivan, and then, of course, Rick Mears. So Teo Fabi is out in front of this field. The next stop on the Kart PPG IndyCar World Series Trail will be Sunday, September 10th, yet another road course. The rolling 4-mile circuit of Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, where the Road America 200 will be carried live on ESPN. The race beginning at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Now, Road America will open its gates at 6 a.m. to help accommodate all the race fans. If you need further information, then don't hesitate to call. The number is 1-800-365-RACE, R-A-C-E. That's 1-800-365-RACE. For information on ESPN's next live telecast, the Road America 200 coming up next weekend. Teo Fabi out in front. Dandy ride for this car. Boy, this could be a banner day for that team.
It really can. And Teo, I think, realizes that, and he's using the car to its nth degree. The car is fabulous. He's been able to catch up, been able to make passes, been able to do the job. It's incredible that the Porsche looks really good today. It's not to be denied.
Well, the report comes now that Scott Pruitt's car has been withdrawn. They have an engine problem as well, so the True Sports entry is out of competition. A car that has been quite dominant on this circuit in past years. There, interesting little battle developing. Michael Andretti with Emerson Fittipaldi closing in just behind. The fight is for 3rd place. Danny Sullivan closing in behind Emo. Not on your picture at the moment. You can see him at the back edge of the screen. Now Fittipaldi closes down on Michael Andretti. The fight for 3rd. 2 different chassis here. The Lola of Michael Andretti out in front, Chevrolet powered. The PC-18 of Emerson Fittipaldi in the Marlboro car.
Emerson is staying glued right to him so he can take the opportunity when it comes to make the pass if he can. But it's not going to be easy with Michael, I can assure you.
Michael Andretti has had a terrific year. I think he may at this moment, in fact, be one of the best drivers, if not the best driver on the circuit. He's worked with that car. It has not been performing as good as he would like it to, but he certainly is driving it very, very well. It's tough to beat the Penske PC-18s. They have been dominant all season long. But for the moment, Michael Andretti is able to keep Emerson Fittipaldi back, and Danny Sullivan, running in 5th place, continues his pursuit of Fittipaldi.
Yes, this is a real dogfight for this position, but Sullivan's sitting back there, and like we alluded earlier, he may just be kind of cruising. I wouldn't think so, because he would want to be a lot tighter and take the opportunity to pass if he could. But I'm sure Danny's doing all he can under the circumstances, and who knows, the arm might be a problem.
It's a great day for racing and a terrific race here at Mid-Ohio. Emerson Fittipaldi has watched his point lead shrink. In fact, he scored only 3 points in the last 3 races. Ask him about that problem.
I'm really concerned, and I know that 4 races to go. we still have 80 points available to anybody, even more. If you get pulled and lead most laps of the race, there'll be 8 points available for the championship. And you know, I see a lot of competition from Rick and from Michael. They are there. And, we just hope we can finish the next 4 races, finish well.
Emerson Fittipaldi, the 4th place machine, trying to take 3rd place away from Michael Andretti. There is Kevin Kogan. You saw him pass through the frame as well. He started 19th. He's up running in 10th place right now. Here's Gary Gerald.
I'll try to update you on the Penske program. You mentioned Danny Sullivan in 5th, Rick Mears down a lap in the number 6 spot. No specific problems for either one of the drivers. They did not affect any changes relating to the setup on the last pit stop. No complaints from Danny on the radio regarding the arm. Interesting to note, this is the 6th year that he's run here. 4 times he started in the front row, and never in the past has he finished any worse than 5th. That's where he's running right now, and he's never won here at this racetrack. Got to make up some ground. Mears, meanwhile, just soldiering away, hoping to get as many points as possible. Paul?
There's his teammate Rick Mears continuing to work around as well, running in 6th place. And the leader, Teo Fabi, is really stretching out his lead over Al Unser Jr. We have about 18 laps to go in the run here in the Red Roof Inns 200. Silvio Bellavio, one of the back markers in this field, and continues to pull away from everyone else in the field now with a full 14-second lead over the 2nd place car of Al Unser Jr. Emerson Fittipaldi currently runs in 4th place. He's trying to catch the 3rd place car of Michael Andretti. And Danny Sullivan has been sitting back. You can see him coming onto the pit straight right now behind Emerson Fittipaldi. Sullivan runs in 5th, trying to catch Fittipaldi. And then Sullivan's teammate Rick Mears sits back in 6th. And Mario Andretti is 7th, Derek Daly 8th, Ari Luyendyk 9th, and Kevin Kogan is running 10th. Well, the leader of the race is Teo Fabi. He's dominated this race here, picking up a point for the pole, now a point for leading the most laps, and picking up the average speed as well, 103 miles an hour. But the race record is 107.4, held by Roberto Guerrero. Full course caution at the start of the race. Well, they got Pancho Carter off the track. We've had 4 different leaders, 5 different lead changes. 18 cars are still running, and 6 of those cars are on the lead lap of this race. And out in front is Teo Fabi. Here are the cars that are out of competition thus far. It's been a hard day, though, mostly on engine and power plant combinations. We've had no major incidents in this race at all. Some spins off the course, but no hard contact here. All drivers are well and safe to this point. Teo Fabi now with 14 seconds out over the 2nd place car of Al Unser Jr. Let's go to the pits and check a route.
Paul, through the magic of television, we're giving a view from inside a helmet of what a driver looks like in terms of visibility, what he sees out on the racetrack. You see how occluded it is? That's why they use tearaways, so that then they can have a clear view. What they do is they take their helmet and they take these small Lexan plastic pieces here and they lay them up against their visor this way. Then through the course of the race, they're able to tear them off and get a clearer view of what's directly in front of them. This is just one of the techniques that they use when they're racing, even in the best of conditions. Let's check in with Gary Gerald.
Well, Jack, the man who is anxiously checking the stopwatch, listening to the radio, Derek Walker, the team manager for Porsche, you're closing in possibly on the moment that you've been looking forward to. You must be happy with the way the car's working at this point.
Yeah, extremely well. Yeah, it's running fine, but the race isn't over yet, so we're anxious for the end.
What are the concerns for you, Derek, and is fuel one of them?
Well, just there's a lot of traffic still out there and conditions aren't any better, so you've just, got to stay out of trouble and obviously making sure we've done our homework and we've got enough fuel to go the distance.
If you're able to get it, what would this victory, what would it mean to get the first one for the Porsche program after this long, hard trek?
Well, just be just reward, I guess, after such a struggle.
You can feel the anticipation building down here as they inch closer to it, Paul.
Derek Walker, who left the general managership at Penske to come over with this new effort with Al Holbert, and then Holbert's untimely death last year. What a marvelous tribute to Porsche if they can get this job done here today. Michael Andretti in 3rd place, but Emerson Fittipaldi is closing in.
Yes, this is the dogfight of the race right now, because Emerson is sitting there pushing. He knows he wants to finish in one of those top point spots. Michael has got to finish better than him to get more points.
Emerson Fittipaldi still being very, very careful and not pushing the car as hard as he might. Let's go to Jack again.
If the victory came here at Mid-Ohio, it would be kind of ironic because, you know, almost 11 months ago, it was in Columbus, Ohio, where Al Holbert met his untimely death in an airplane crash. He was flying back to Columbus, Ohio, actually leaving Columbus, Ohio, after running in the Columbus race in IMSA competition. Kind of ironic that we'd be back in Ohio to have the first victory for Porsche take place.
Porsche, Teo Fabi is out in front of the field, a full 19 seconds now, almost 20 seconds over Al Unser Jr. Running perfectly, no problems at all, and perhaps on its way to its first victory. 84 laps the scheduled distance. 72 laps are now complete. Al Unser Jr. second, Michael Andretti is third. We'll be back. Surprise, and at the last second, Teo Fabi, the leader of the race, comes in for what they say will be a splash of fuel for the Porsche. Here is Gary Gerald.
They didn't get all the fuel in on the last regular stop, so they had to bring him back. Disappointment after all of that optimism. It was a splash and go. He's gone, but was the lead that he had over Little Al big enough? We're about to find out right now.
A 7-second stop. Al Unser Jr. comes screaming through the first turn behind Teo Fabi. Fabi beat him to the pit exit road and maintains the lead of the race. But it did close the interval down to about 9 seconds. So Teo Fabi in and out of the pits. The crew really did a spectacular job. Teo got that car stopped right on the mark, which is critical to the refueling because the hose only stretches so far. Did a superlative job and maintains his lead. But Al Unser Jr. has been able to close in as a result.
Oh, the key to that was the fact that Teo had run hard enough to open up the gap, and it gave him the chance to do just what he did. So now he's back in the lead. Al Unser, though, is much closer than he was, and probably see Teo. He's going to be pushing real hard to try to catch him.
And there is the argument against relaxing when you're out in front of the field. You still have to go hard. You just might need it, as he did there.
Oh, you've got to. There's no doubt about that. You have to run as hard as you can from flag to flag in one of these things.
Looking ahead from the second place car, the Valvoline machine of Al Unser Jr. It is a clear circuit. He does not have the target of Teo Fabi in sight. Perhaps on the long stretch he can just catch a glimpse because Teo is a full 9 seconds ahead of him. There's the 6 car. That's Michael Andretti running in third. Emerson Fittipaldi just behind, trying to handle up Jeff Wood's car, and there is Fittipaldi around Wood and now trying to close on Michael Andretti. But a spectacular development here in the closing laps of this race as Teo Fabi jumps in for a splash of fuel, and that closes Al Unser Jr. down behind him. We'll be back with more from Mid-Ohio. Back now in the closing laps of the Red Roof Inns 200 at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. I'm Paul Page with Johnny Rutherford, the very first winner of the IndyCar races here back in 1980. And Johnny, we're watching what may be a new name go into the record books at Mid-Ohio, and that is Teo Fabi. And a spectacular achievement, not just for the driver, but for the team and the development people at Porsche. There's the second place car, Al Unser Jr. He is about 10 seconds back. On the roll-up out of the pits when Teo Fabi made the stop for fuel, he was able to close to within about 5 seconds of Fabi, but then Fabi was able to roll back away with performances like you just saw as he moved around the machinist car of Kevin Kogan, a team that says they will no longer be racing with CART at the end of this season. Kogan is in 10th place, though. He started 19th in this field of 28. At the front of the field is the Quaker State Porsche of Teo Fabi. His last win came in 1983, the closing race of the season at Phoenix. He had a spectacular outside pass where he just up and rimmed the whole racetrack 33 races ago for the young Italian. Well, he may be on his way to victory once again, but Al Unser Jr. still may have something to say about it, though it seems unlikely. Little Al is in second place. Michael Andretti is running about 22 seconds behind the leader, with Emerson Fittipaldi and Danny Sullivan lined up just behind in what may, before this race is over, develop into a good battle for third place. And there is Mario Andretti, who is running in 7th place behind the 6th place car of Rick Mears. R.A. Lyondike rides in 8th place, followed by Derek Daly and then Kogan. There is Michael Andretti.
Don't you know you could cut the anticipation in the Quaker State pit with a knife right now?
Well, it'll solve so many problems for them. Let's go to the pits and Jack Arute.
Paul, we caught up with Al Unser Jr.'s spare helmet here, and you notice on the back it says PARD, P-A-R-D. We just thought we'd let people know what it stands for. You see, Rick Galla says it stands for preparation, appearance, results, and detail. He says if you connect all those things together, you will be successful in IndyCar racing. So all of his pit equipment and his driver's driver uniform carry the designation of PARD.
On board with Al Unser Jr. as he works his way around in second place. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
And look at the faces along this pit wall, Paul Page. You can feel the moment inching closer. Teo Fabi, who won here in Can-Am in 1982. In 1983, as an Indy rookie out of nowhere, he won for the Forsyth brothers. 2 years ago, Porsche put its first Indy car on the track at Laguna Seca. And maybe now, this is going to be the day that they've been waiting for so very, very long. And you can feel it from Derek Walker to Tony Cicali to every member of this team here as they inch closer and closer. And just all but biting their fingernails. It's one of those special moments, I think, in IndyCar racing, or for that matter, in all of sports.
I'm not sure that Derek Walker will believe it if, in fact, it happens. Yesterday, when I talked to him about it, he said, well, perhaps before the season is over, but I'm not really sure. It may be happening even as we speak. Al Unser Jr. continues to chase in second place, but he is a full 10 seconds behind the leader. And what problems will this solve for that team? Well, there was conversation as recently as several weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that Porsche may not continue this effort in the Indy cars. Perhaps the new management in Stuttgart were not seeing the results that they were looking for, and it wasn't beneficial to the program. Well, the white flag comes out on the Quaker State Porsche. We'll see how beneficial it is now. Interestingly enough, yesterday Porsche said we will continue with at least a one-car effort through next year. Well, this is the reward they're about to get as Al Unser Jr. in second place. His wife Shelley, as she watches from the position on the pit straight on their scoring stand. And Teo Fabi has now only to negotiate about 12 more turns ahead of him on that long straightaway, 180 miles an hour.
I don't think there's any denying the Porsche today. They have run flawlessly, even in their little quick pit stop they had to make at the end. It's all worked out for them, and Teo is doing a tremendous job and has a magnificent car under him.
Well, they've overcome. Remember, they had the accident in the qualifying session, cut the corner off of the car. They ran back, drug out the backup car, which is the machine he's in now, put it right back out on the circuit, got back into the qualifying, qualified the car on the pole, and then in the race itself, just a few laps ago, they didn't get a full fuel load. They had to come in for a quick splash of fuel, and in doing that, they're able to maintain the lead of the race and are now on the final lap.
There is fixing to be bedlam in the Porsche pit. He is making the last turn, Paul, coming down for the checkered flag. They are going to go crazy.
And on the pit straight, the checkered flag comes out for the Quaker State Porsche and Teo Fabi. Porsche has done it at Mid-Ohio. They have scored their first victory in the IndyCars. Derek Walker receives the congratulations from the crew. Teo Fabi begins to wave to the crowd, and the crowd is loving it. They recognize the significance of this moment. There is now another engine, another combination in the IndyCars. This series continues its excitement. Tony Cicali in the blue sweater, one of the aerodynamicists on the car, has helped make this car go so quickly. Teo Fabi has scored his first victory in the IndyCar since 1983.
And they only have tonight to be able to celebrate, because I can assure you they will be flat out ready for getting for the race next weekend, which is doesn't give them much time to celebrate, but they'll probably be thinking, let's go after number 2.
As the gentleman he is, Al Unser Jr. pulled up alongside Teo and gave him a wave, congratulating him on his victory as Al Unser Jr. finishes in second place. But Teo Fabi is the winner at Mid-Ohio. We'll be back. Teo Fabi is the winner. We're ready to talk to him in a Sears Die Hard Winner Circle interview, brought to you by the Die Hard battery, now with more power when you need it most. Here's Jack.
Teo Fabi taking the helmet off, getting the congratulations of his entire crew here. History has been made at Mid-Ohio Racecourse, where Fabi has come home victorious for the first time with Porsche power. Teo, congratulations. A fine ride of historic proportions.
Thank you. I think it was a very good race. Very difficult at the end because we have to make an extra stop, but car ran very well.
When you had to come in for that final stop because you didn't take the full load of fuel, did you ever have any doubts that you were maybe going to lose the lead?
Well, for sure, when they told me I had to come in another time, I said, well, the race is lost, but you know, I kept pushing, and I was able to gain 20 seconds on Al Jr., which were enough to make an extra stop.
Well, he is victorious for the first time with Porsche power. Let's check in with Gary Gerald. Gary?
Well, Jack, right next door, here's the man who's second, Al Unser Jr. I understand the car was a little bit loose, not the easiest to drive today.
No, it was just a little bit loose. You know, Tio had a lot better grip in the rear end than I did, and I knew that when I was following him. I was going sideways when he was going straight. I tried to put as much pressure on him as I could to try to get his tires to go off. The more pressure I tried to put on him, the more my tires went off, and so that's what happened. And they congratulations to him, because they earned it.
Gentlemen, as always, second place will be the story today for Al Unser Jr. Paul?
Al Unser Jr. finishes in second place, 7 seconds behind the Porsche of Teo Fabi. For Fabi, it was his 5th IndyCar career win. As we take a look at the top 10, and with a very careful drive, Emerson Fittipaldi finishes in 4th place, and that keeps him at the top of the standings in the PPG points, followed by Rick Mears. But Teo Fabi has moved up to tie Michael Andretti for 3rd, and Al Unser Jr. is in 5th place right now. The Marlboro Challenge, well, these are the entrants. Nothing changes there in that special invitational at the end of the season. The longest road course in America is the next stop for kart drivers. They battle at the Road America 200 next Sunday afternoon at 1 Eastern, live on ESPN.